because these are US taxpayer funds. That fund, the executor of those contracts has to be US companies, not African countries, right? So the real gifts are the projects that are executed, not the contracts. So as a US company, I'm eligible to tap into those trade and execute those contracts on the continent. And then the receiving country on the continent, what they receive is whatever project is approved. You realize that the fund, most of the fund actually stays within the donor economy, meaning UK aid. UK aid comes to Africa, yes, but the private sector in the UK are the ones to execute those contracts, and the gift itself, it's the project that they leave behind. That's the way aid, because people then wonder, like the governments we talk to, they wonder like, how come foreign aid is not growing our economy? It's not growing our economy because the funds, the bulk of the 1 billion, whatever $billion, doesn't go through your banks. It actually is executed by the private sector of the donor country, and it's their way of entering your market in from a goodwill standpoint to say, hey, we want to execute this project, we want to do this road construction, don't worry about it. Our private sector would execute the contract for you. They've already won, they've been awarded that contract through our government. We just want to make sure this is a project you need, we'll do all the work. And then they employ a few people locally to partner and support that project. But that's the world of foreign aid. However, the world of trade, if you pursue as a private sector player, if you pursue trade opportunities, all the funds come into your market, come into the nation you're resident in benefits because you're paid directly. Now, the world of trade drives innovation, creativity, and industrialization within the economy. Why? Because for you to execute on those trade transactions, you have to innovate, you have to be creative. This is not a donation, this is commerce. So you have to be savvy, you have to do a great job. And in order for you to keep on capturing trade opportunities, you have to improve, you have to do it better, because there are so many people around the world vying for the same opportunity. So just to give you an example, China. How many people remember 20, 30 years ago when China began this journey to capturing trade, not hate? People used to perceive it as low quality. Oh, if you want something cheap, China will do it cheap. That's where they started their journey, but they did not stay there, right? As they were capturing more opportunities, they had the funds to invest, to industrialize, and they started improving. You now start seeing companies like Toyota, you start seeing like Asian brands emerge with high innovation that are now globally, right? They are globally relevant. They can compete. They're even best in class globally now. But they didn't start there. They started with small trade opportunities, capturing those trade opportunities, and then improving. So trade drives innovation in your economy. It drives creativity within your business, and you can then pursue industrialization because you can receive financing to improve. Because if you have a trade opportunity, you can go to the bank and also get funds to industrialize in order to meet trade opportunity. When you look at the right side, foreign aid is not designed to drive creativity in the receiving country. Why? Because the people to execute those transactions are foreign private sector. So they are bringing their own knowledge, expertise. They are bringing their own expertise into your market. And when they leave with their expertise. Unless you have a mechanism for knowledge transfer. So the receiving country is always going to rely on those doing the project, the foreigners that are coming in. So they're coming in, they do their project, they take their knowledge out. They start another project, they take their knowledge out. And you're like, how come we can't learn this thing? It's because in the world of foreign aid, you don't have to learn. It's not designed to help you be creative. It's not designed to help you. It's more of, oh, we will donate projects to you. We'll do the work. Don't worry, we'll do the work. You just sit down and we have the funds. Our government has already financed. We'll bring our technology, expertise, we'll do the work. And when that work is done, they're out. Um, When you think about on the left side again, it's a real engine of true and dynamic economic development. It's gradual, it's deliberate, the impact is long term. Whereas foreign aid creates economic dependency. What we are seeing right now is that a lot of government is now being run depending on foreign aid. If there's no aid initiative, they would say, oh, our ministry needs a consultant. We cannot afford those consultants. Can you please fund this for us? So there's so much dependency on the donor nations because there's no commercialization of those things happening in the country. Now, trade also drives long-term efficiencies in the supply chain and transportation, because when you're doing trade inside a region, whether in your local market or moving regional, you find out that routes of trade, infrastructure development follows trade transactions, because you're going to be needing to move people, you're going to need to move products in and out, right? For your business, in order for you to ship things in, ship things out. If you're doing trade, then the supply chain will start maturing. But if you're not in the world of trade, then the supply chain does not mature, because it requires investment. When you think about road, rail, and air transportation is usually the last transportation method to develop, because you're starting to talk about speed of delivery of services. Like, people need to move faster, you need to do things overnight. That's where air transportation really mature. But then the first thing that matures is road. You have 15 landlocked nations on the continent of Africa that has no seaports. So those 15 countries, the only way to move goods and services is through road. Through road. You now have opportunities for rail, but those infrastructure would not develop when there's no demand, right? When there's no pressure in the world of trade. If all you're doing is foreign aid, then the donor country will just bring whatever it is. They'll bring everything from their nation. They'll bring it in, do the work, bring it out. There's no economic dynamic economic development in the receiving nation. Again, we go into this thing so that we set the stage, so that people know our focus is on trade. Our focus is not on foreign aid. There are times when foreign aid can serve as a catalyst. So I've seen situations where you can apply training, funding to support trade, right? So when you would say you want to go into agriculture, and you want to train farmers in the coffee business, there are funds, from a foreign aid that could support businesses. And I've seen that happen. And there are some examples of people I actually know that it's almost like a matching project, where the private sector, for every dollar that the private sector brings into that deal, they can get financing from their country. So US, you can get one-to-one matching. For every dollar, US foreign aid can match you a dollar. So your 1 million becomes 2 million based on grants from US government to go and execute. So that means your dollar can stretch. So I've seen that happen. Those are the best case scenarios for foreign aid, where there's private sector, public-private sector partnership in executing transaction. But those foreign aid opportunities are only open again to the private sector of the donor countries. So for us, for example, as a private sector of a US company, US citizen, we can say we want to do a project on the continent of Africa. We can assess those grants and say, okay, for every dollar we donate, can we apply for a grant to support this project? So, but again, it's from the donor country that can make that request, and then in partnership with receiving countries, they can say, hey, yes, that project would make a difference, because the receiving country has to approve. You can't just go into a receiving country and say, hey, we want to do this project, get out of our way. No, it doesn't happen that way. The government there has to approve and say, yes, this is a project that really makes sense, we welcome you to do it. So there's definitely opportunities within the foreign aid. I'm just saying, we don't want to build 100% strategy around foreign aid. Maybe foreign aid is 10-20% of your national or individual strategy. The way to go is trade. Support trade should be at least 60 to 70% of the national strategy. That's what we are advising the government to look at. Um, you look at laws, trade is controlled by demand and supply. The best person wins in terms of, I mean, all things being equal, right? You should be the most efficient person that can do the job well. They should be the ones in trade. But we also know networking plays a part as well. However, foreign aid is unpredictable, right? It's unpredictable. Limited local labors is hired to augment foreign projects. Whereas in trade, you can hire people you're focused in delivering services and goods. So you can hire people locally to do the project and it's more sustainable, right? You can grow those opportunities. If you do a fantastic project, then you can go after more trade opportunities as well. So trade provides sustainable growth. Foreign aid, it's all over. I've seen projects that were only funded for 5 years. After the 5 years, even the website for that project is gone. I'm telling you, I won't give names on this call, but I've seen projects that were funded for 5 years. After the 5 years, everything was scrapped, the knowledge gone, the people gone. It's like as if the project never happened. So you cannot predict, you cannot control, you cannot predict foreign aid initiatives. It's not sustainable. There's no continuity. When those people come, they do the projects, they leave, and that's it. And that's been happening over and over and over again. It will keep happening because it does bring some value. I think the point we're saying is which one do you want to pick right here as a business owner, as a trade facilitator. You just have to be aware. I think you have to be aware that when you enter into a room, when you enter into a dialogue, hopefully this slide just helps you be able to immediately understand, what did I just walk into? Like, who are these players in this room? What are they about? What is their agenda? Is it a foreign aid agenda, or is it a commercial trade or investment agenda? And for you walking into that room with this knowledge, you can better navigate those conversations. So this is more of, just knowing, this is something grounding you to know what you're walking into and knowing how to navigate this. So which one do you pick? Which one do you think you want to be a part of? For me, we're focused on trade, but we do engage with USAID and they play in that space. But because we understand what it is they do, we're able to engage appropriately. Okay. The next slide is really, we're just laying solid foundation here, right? Part of one thing we've also realized is that people stumble on conversations, people get into engagement, people come to our events and they come with their own personal agenda. But there's this self-awareness, this EQ, this emotional understanding that you have to also understand that the other people you're meeting in the room, they also have their own agenda. So as a trade facilitator, you need to come into that room differently. Everybody you talk to, the first thing you need to be assessing is, what is this person trying to accomplish? What type of player is this person in terms of what type of stakeholder are they? What are they about? And that way you can tailor your engagement appropriately. So if you come to any of our events, you're going to see a mix of these players. So let me walk you through this list. You're going to engage with